Myself Dr. Sunil Sawant, Professor and Head, Department of English, Kishanvir Mahavidyalaya, YE. The topic of my presentation is practical criticism. Now, practical criticism is also known as applied criticism. Practical criticism is nothing but a way of discussing different works of literature. Now, this practical criticism is against certain things. It is against the biographies of authors, the social context of literature, literary history, and the psychological or moral effects of literature on the reader. Practical criticism is rather concerned with the detailed analysis of the individual work itself, the individual novel, the individual play, or the individual poem. It is held that each work, each poem, each play, each novel has the organic unity of overall structure and verbal meanings. Words, images, and symbols in the work of literature, they are organized around a central and humanly significant theme. Now, under practical criticism, we have another concept, close reading. Now, close reading of single text, here the idea is we can have the detailed and subtle analysis of different interrelations and multiple meanings of the components within a work. Practical criticism, close reading, gives us analysis of the meanings and interactions of words, figures of speech, and symbols. It was I.A. Richards who developed this concept of practical criticism in his class, and later on he wrote a book, Practical Criticism, based on his individual experience of classroom teaching. William Emerson's book, 7 Types of Ambiguity, is also an addition to this critical material on the concept of practical criticism. Now, practical criticism is an attempt to analyze and explain the effects of a particular literary work, such as a poem, a play, or a novel, by referring to theme, subject, organization, techniques, style, etc. Now, there are 2 important questions we can raise while discussing literature. What is the poem about? What is the work of literature about? That gives us the content or subject matter of the work of art. And another question is, how is the poem organized? How is the play organized? Where we discuss the form of the poem or the play. Now, theme, there are so many themes, the themes of love, war, carpe diem. Okay, such themes are there. They come under content. Another important dimension of poetry, which we have to take into consideration while discussing some poem under practical criticism, is this wider concept, imagery. Now, imagery is a concept which has something to do with images. We have 5 important senses through which we experience the world, and imagery has something to do with visual kind of context: auditory, tactile, thermal, olfactory, gustatory, kinesthetic. These are the different ways through which we can have images. Now, here is a poem by William Wordsworth. She dwelt among the untrodden ways beside the springs of Dove, a maid whom there were none to praise and very few to love. A violet by a mossy stone, half hidden from the eye, fair as a star when only one is shining in the sky. She lived unknown and few could know when Lucy ceased to be, but she is in her grave, and oh, the difference to me. Now, in this poem, while writing practical criticism of this poem, we find that the second stanza is very important because it includes such visible objects as a violet flower, a mossy stone, a star, a single star, sky. Okay, all these things we can see with our eyes. Violet flowers or stones, stars, sky. We can see. We have seen already, and Wordsworth makes an appeal to our sense of sight when he refers to these 3 or 4 important objects from nature. Now, Lucy's charm, her existence, is like that of the violet flower, like the star. Now, she was half hidden from the eye. That means she was obscure and unnoticed. And then Lucy is compared to the star. Lucy was completely obscure to the world as the modest flower in the shadow of the mossy stone. And to the eye of her lover, she was the only star in his heaven. So in this poem written by Wordsworth, the imagery is the poem. The imagery, the images of the violet flower, the star, okay, the stone, sky, these images, they become the poem. The imagery is not something additional, merely decorative. The poem renders the experience of love dramatically in concrete terms. If we go back to the poem, you will find this stanza, central stanza, gives us 4 different images: violet, stone, star, sky. Okay, and these images come to throw light on the existence of Lucy. There is something mysterious about the existence of Lucy, because there were none to praise her and very few to love. Lucy was such a girl that she was not living in the midst of society. She was living away from the society because very few people were there to praise her beauty, and very few people were there to love her. She was just like a single violet flower, which we see partially because it is concealed behind the mossy stone. And she is like again a single star, which is beautiful, but again only one shining in the sky. So she lived unknown. This word unknown is very important. Very few people were there who knew her existence. And when she died, even very few people knew about her death. Just as people did not know about her life, in the same way, very few people knew about her death. But the last 2 lines are very important. Her existence and her death, they have made difference to the poet. But she is in her grave, and oh, the difference to me. The poet has been adversely affected by her unfortunate demise. So this is a simple exercise, a modest kind of exercise of giving some kind of practical criticism of a poem written by William Wordsworth. Thank you very much.